You know that feeling when you're staring at an e-commerce platform backend for the first time?
Oh, yeah, pure panic.
Right. Like maybe you just signed up, or maybe you've actually been running the store for a year, but suddenly you realize you have completely lost control of your own architecture.
You log in on a Friday night, right. Adrenaline is pumping, you want to launch a product.
And you just hit a massive brick wall. You're absolutely drowning in menus, third-party apps, all this wild jargon.
Yeah, you see terms like meta fields or liquid.
Exactly. And your momentum just instantly turns into complete paralysis.
It's an incredibly common experience, even for seasoned operators. You go in expecting to set up this streamlined digital cash register.
Like it's going to be so easy.
Right. But instead, you feel like you've been dropped into the cockpit of a commercial airliner without a flight manual, and your instinct is to just start flipping switches to see what happens.
Which usually makes things so much worse. And, well, that is exactly what we are tackling in today's deep dive.
It is.
We are pulling from a comprehensive, highly tactical guide that came out on June 14, 2026. It's called Shopify for Dummies, The Beginner's Mental Model and Glossary.
A very necessary read.
Definitely. Our mission today is to completely cut through the platform's marketing spin, because even if you already know the basics of e-commerce, we're going to give you a bulletproof mental framework.
We need to reset the whole architecture of how you view your store.
So you can stop wasting time overcomplicating things you don't even need.
Because that overcomplication is, honestly, the biggest trap. People get caught up in the weeds of aesthetic customization, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Or they start installing all these complex integrations before they truly understand how the platform's underlying mechanics actually function.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the core problem, at least according to our source material, is a lack of spatial awareness.
Right.
People will spend days, literally days, agonizing over the exact behavior of a drop-down menu on their homepage.
Which doesn't even matter if the store can't take money.
Exactly. They completely ignore the literal mechanical plumbing of how their platform authenticates and captures a transaction.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really helps to understand the fundamental nature of what Shopify actually is.
Which is?
It's a hosted platform. You are essentially renting access to a massive centralized commerce engine.
Right, you're renting the engine.
Yes, but you retain ownership of your brand, your inventory data, your customer list. The real secret to mastering this ecosystem isn't learning how to write custom code.
Thank goodness.
Right. You don't need to become a developer. The secret is simply understanding how the different architectural pieces communicate with each other. Once you have that mental map, well, the jargon totally loses its power.
And to map that territory, the guide introduces a really brilliant grounding analogy. Because, I mean, we need to move away from these abstract cloud concepts.
I mean, something physical.
Exactly. It uses a 4 rooms mental model. It takes every single confusing dashboard, every menu, every technical term, and assigns it to a physical space in a theoretical building.
So picture your entire commerce operation as a physical retail space with 4 distinct rooms.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
First, you have the admin. This is your back office.
So no customers allowed.
Strictly staff only. This is where your databases live. Your inventory tracking, your customer logs, your pricing matrices, all of that is in the admin.
Then you have the storefront, which is
Yeah.
basically the shop floor.
Yep.
It's the public-facing area designed purely for browsing and visual merchandising. That's room 2.
Third is the checkout. Think of this as the physical point-of-sale terminal.
The actual cash register.
Exactly. And what's crucial to understand about this specific room is that the terminal is hosted and locked down by Shopify. It is intentionally standardized across millions of different storefronts.
Which we will definitely dig into later. But finally, the 4th room is the apps.
Right.
The guide describes these as outside contractors. You only hire them to come into the building when a specific operational need arises that the original blueprint didn't cover.
Having this architectural framework instantly demystifies the jargon that paralyzes so many users. Take the 2 terms you mentioned earlier.
Metafields and liquid.
Yeah. In the 4 rooms model, a metafield is simply a custom drawer you build in the admin room.
Okay, a drawer.
Say the default drawers like title or price aren't enough. You need a special place to store, I don't know, care instructions for a sweater.
Hand wash only, that kind of thing.
Right. You build a metafield drawer to hold that specific data.
So the data lives in the back office. But how does the customer actually see those care instructions on the shop floor?
That is where Liquid comes in. Liquid is essentially the conveyor belt.
Okay.
It's the platform's proprietary coding language, and its entire job is to pull the data out of that metafield drawer in the admin, carry it through the walls, and display it in the storefront room for the customer to see.
That completely reframes it.
Hmm.
It's literally just moving boxes from the back to the front.
Exactly.
The source material also gets into the mechanics of inventory data, specifically variants. We all know a product is a high-level item, like a Wool Crew sweater.
Right.
And a variant is a specific iteration, like a size medium in navy blue. But there's a massive technical update from the guide here.
A huge update.
Historically, Shopify capped variants at 100 per product. But on October 15, 2025, they raised that cap to 2,048 options.
And we really shouldn't just gloss over that number, because the engineering behind it is significant. For years, the 100 variant limit was a massive bottleneck.
For who? Like, who needs more than 100?
Oh, brands selling complex items. Think about custom furniture. You have multiple wood finishes, fabric types, hardware options.
Oh, I see. That multiplies out really fast.
It does. The reason it took until late 2025 to increase it is because of relational database architecture.
How so?
Every time you add an option, it creates a multiplicative matrix. 10 sizes multiplied by 10 colors multiplied by 10 materials. The database has to generate and track a unique SKU for every single permutation. To support 2,048 variants without causing the storefront to lag and crash during a page load, Shopify had to completely re-engineer how their back-end indexes and retrieves data.
So it's not just a bigger number, it's a massive upgrade in database efficiency.
Cycle.
And speaking of efficiency, the guide heavily emphasizes tags within the admin room.
Tags are incredibly important.
They're these free-form keywords you attach to back-end data, like tagging an order fraud risk or a product winter clearance. Why are tags so critical for advanced operators?
Because tags are the mechanical triggers for automations.
Okay.
If you want a specific collection page to dynamically update itself, or if you want an automated email flow to trigger only for high-value customers, the system needs a data hook.
It needs to know what to look for.
Right. A consistent disciplined tagging architecture built on day one prevents you from having to manually sort thousands of rows of spreadsheet data 6 months later.
So let me test this four rooms framework on you just to make sure I'm really internalizing it.
Go for it.
If I'm auditing my site and I'm frustrated because my brand's new logo isn't rendering properly on the mobile header, I don't go digging around in the admin settings.
No, you don't.
I have to navigate to the storefront editor. Because trying to fix a visual logo in the admin is basically like asking your back office accountant where to hang a painting in the lobby.
That is the exact logic you need to apply. When a problem arises, ask yourself, which room does this mechanism live in?
Right.
Where do I export a tax report? The admin. Where do I rearrange the homepage image carousel? The storefront.
Makes total sense.
And it's vital to remember that the storefront is a visual layer. You manipulate it using what Shopify calls sections.
Which are just structural blocks.
Drag and drop blocks, yeah. You design the whole thing typically using their default horizon theme without ever touching that underlying liquid conveyor belt code.
Which brings us to a really dangerous pivot point. Because having a beautiful storefront is great, but the guide introduces a concept that I love, the digital museum.
Yes, the digital museum.
A stunning website that is fundamentally incapable of processing a transaction isn't a store, it's just a digital museum. People can look, but they can't buy.
Which defeats the entire purpose.
Totally. To fix that, we have to talk about the unseen plumbing of the admin room, specifically the settings menu.
The admin interface is streamlined into 6 primary navigation hubs: products, orders, customers, online store, marketing, and finally, settings.
And what's the trap?
The trap is that operators gravitate entirely toward online store.
Because it's the visually rewarding part. I mean, it's highly addictive to tweak the colors and the layouts. Meanwhile, the unglamorous settings menu in the bottom corner gets completely neglected.
But settings is the room that houses the rigid mechanics of commerce. Take shipping zones, for instance.
Oh, I have a personal story about this.
Let's hear it.
I was trying to buy a specialized coffee grinder from a boutique brand a few months ago. I spent 20 minutes picking out accessories, entered my credit card, hit submit, and got a hard error. No shipping options available for this address. I just closed the tab and bought it somewhere else. They lost a $300 sale because of it.
And that is exactly what happens when you don't configure the mechanics. The platform is incredibly literal.
It won't just guess where to ship it.
No. If you do not explicitly map out your shipping zones in settings, telling the system exactly which geographic regions you service and the associated logic for the rates the checkout physically breaks, it refuses to process the transaction.
Tax nexus is another big one. The source guide points out that Shopify will do the complex tax math for you, but only if you explicitly define your legal nexus in the settings.
And the mechanics of how it calculates that are actually wild.
Yeah, how does it work?
It is a remarkable piece of engineering. When a customer reaches the checkout, the platform takes their exact zip code and, within a millisecond, pings localized, constantly updating tax databases.
A millisecond.
Literally.
Yeah.
It calculates county and city-specific sales tax rates, appending it to the total before the payment is authorized.
That's amazing.
But again, that multi-million-dollar infrastructure sits completely dormant if you haven't flipped the switch in settings to tell it you are liable for taxes in that specific state.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We have to talk about how this underlying infrastructure scales, specifically regarding pricing plans.
Yes.
The guide takes a very hardline stance on this.
Yes.
You look at Shopify's tier list, and you see the basic plan at $39 a month. Then, way at the top, you have the Plus plan for Enterprise, starting around $2,300 a month.
Quite a chunk.
Naturally, you assume the $2,300 plan utilizes a vastly superior server architecture.
What's fascinating here is that that's a fundamental misunderstanding of multi-tenant cloud software.
Really?
The platform does not give the $2,300 customer a better server and the $39 customer a weaker server. They all run on the exact same multi-tenant infrastructure.
So wait, how does a brand new store on a $39 plan handle a massive traffic spike?
Yeah.
Say one of their products goes viral on social media and they suddenly have 50,000 concurrent visitors? Does the site crash?
It does not crash, because your $39 store is sharing the same massive load-balanced server farms as multi-billion-dollar enterprise brands.
That blows my mind.
You are leveraging their scale. The engine is identical. What those expensive upgrades gate is administrative depth, not functional capability.
What kind of depth are we talking about?
Features like lower credit card processing rates designed for extremely high volume margins,
Mm-hmm.
or access to the raw checkout code for complex integrations, or adding dozens of staff accounts with customized permission layers.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the capability to reliably process thousands of orders globally during a flash sale, that is fully intact on the $39 tier. The guide's directive is clear: launch on basic, let your actual transaction volume dictate when an upgrade makes mathematical sense.
Speaking of the math, once the plumbing is actually secure and we are legally capable of taking orders, we have to look closely at the financial engine itself.
Yes, the lifeblood of the store.
We need to understand the mechanics of the checkout room.
The checkout is the most scrutinized, heavily tested point-of-sale terminal on the internet. It relies on a highly structured, sequential flow: cart, information and shipping, and payment.
And that payment step hides a massive putative trap.
It really does.
When you set up your gateway to process credit cards, you can use Shopify Payments, which is their native processor.
Yeah.
Or you can plug in a third-party gateway like Stripe or PayPal. But if you do that, Shopify penalizes you with an extra 2% transaction fee on the basic plan.
Yes, they do.
Now, wait a minute. I need to push back here.
Go ahead.
What if my entire existing business, accounting my payroll, my vendor payouts, is already heavily integrated with Stripe? Is Shopify really forcing me to rip up my established financial infrastructure just to save 2%? Or is there a strategic reason they penalize you?
They are absolutely forcing ecosystem lock-in. It's a strategic moat for their business model.
So it's just pure business strategy.
But from the merchant's perspective, you have to look at the cold, hard math of retail margins. 2% might sound like a minor processing variance, but that isn't 2% of your profit.
Oh, right.
It is 2% of your gross revenue. In an industry where net profit margins often hover around 10 to 15%, surrendering 2% of your total top-line revenue just to maintain your current accounting software is an incredibly destructive financial decision.
That cuts huge chunks out of your take-home pay.
Exactly. If Shopify Payments operates in your jurisdiction, the math demands that you use it.
That is a brutal reality check. And to ensure we're making decisions based on reality, the guide outlines 4 native metrics you must monitor.
Oh, no, 4.
Well, 4 main ones. First, sessions. That's your top-of-funnel traffic.
Yeah.
How many people walked into the storefront? Second, conversion rate. And the guide notes that a healthy conversion rate is only 1 to 2%.
Understanding that benchmark is crucial for operational sanity. Operators often run a campaign, see a 1.5% conversion rate, assume they are failing, and frantically rewrite their entire site.
Yeah, they panic.
A 2% conversion rate means your architecture is functioning perfectly.
Then you have average order value, or AOV. The guide highlights this as the most efficient lever for growth.
Absolutely.
Instead of burning ad spend to acquire new traffic, you use native mechanics like a dynamic free shipping over $100 threshold to incentivize the traffic you already have to add one more item to their cart.
It's much cheaper than buying new ads.
And finally, gross profit per order. Does the transaction actually yield positive cash flow after the cost of goods, shipping, and all those gateway fees we just discussed?
That is the ultimate arbiter of truth for any business architecture.
Hold on, I'm getting tangled up on something here. Let's go back to the checkout room.
Sure.
You said the checkout is locked down and standardized by Shopify. If I can't touch the checkout code, how do I actually execute a strategy to increase AOV? How do I add a custom discount for my VIP customers? Does that happen in the checkout room or the admin room?
Excellent question. The logic happens in the admin room. You configure the parameters of that VIP discount, who gets it, what the percentage is, when it expires inside the admin databases. The checkout room is merely the terminal.
So it just reflects the rules from the back.
It reads that data from the admin and applies the mathematical deduction to the final total. You don't need to alter the checkout's code to offer complex pricing.
That makes perfect sense. But let's dig into why they lock the checkout down in the first place. If I'm building a bespoke luxury brand, I want every touch point to feel deeply unique. Using a generic cash register feels completely counterintuitive to brand building.
It is a frequent point of friction for creative directors. But you have to analyze the psychology of trust in digital commerce.
Trust over aesthetics.
The uniformity is the psychological feature. Buyers have been conditioned by millions of successful transactions to implicitly trust that specific three-step Shopify layout. It signals institutional security.
Furthermore, using the standard checkout gives you access to ShopPay, the accelerated digital wallet. If a buyer has used ShopPay on any other Shopify store, their data is securely vaulted. They can execute a transaction on your completely unfamiliar website with a single biometric tap.
Familiarity removes friction. When a brand attempts to heavily customize their checkout flow out of aesthetic vanity, they introduce unfamiliar variables.
And unfamiliarity breeds hesitation.
And hesitation destroys conversion rates.
So you let the storefront handle the branding, and you let the checkout be a ruthless, standardized utility.
Well said.
Which leads us to the final area where operators accidentally hemorrhage capital.
And that bloat. Oh boy. The app room, the contractors.
This is where a lack of discipline destroys margins. Operators assume that sophisticated stores require complex external software. So immediately they start bolting on subscriptions for email marketing, abandoned cart recovery, basic SEO audits, and product bundling.
They just go crazy in the App Store.
If you're listening to this and you've already launched your store, I challenge you to go check your apps tab right now. How many monthly subscriptions are you currently paying for that duplicative feature? Shopify has already integrated natively into the admin.
Probably more than a few.
Because the guide is emphatic about this, the native engine handles almost all of those core functions for free now.
Exactly. To combat this bloat, the guide doesn't just offer advice, it demands a philosophy of systematic discipline. It outlines a one-week framework designed to force you to prove your underlying architecture works before you introduce third-party variables.
And a crucial part of this discipline is the data you use. During the first few days when you're getting a domain and arranging your storefront, the guide insists you input actual real products into your admin databases. No fake test product 1 entries. Why is data integrity so important at this stage?
Because your storefront's visual layout is entirely dependent on the shape of your data.
What do you mean by the shape of the data?
Well, if you design a beautiful product page around 3 lines of dummy text, and then later import your real inventory, which has 2 paragraphs of description, 4 variant dropdowns, and high-resolution imagery, the entire visual hierarchy of the page breaks.
Oh, I see.
You design around reality, not placeholders.
Which perfectly sets the stage for day 5 of the blueprint. What I think is the most valuable concept in the entire document, the stress test.
The ultimate test.
The guide dictates a physical audit of the platform's mechanics. You go to your live, public-facing website, you use your own personal credit card, and you buy your own product.
With real money?
Real money. Then you log into the admin, initiate a refund, and process that same transaction as a manual draft order.
It is a vital diagnostic protocol. You are intentionally trying to break your own architecture before a paying customer does.
It's putting real money through the plumbing to see where it leaks.
Precisely. This manual stress test surfaces every single back-end misconfiguration immediately.
Like the shipping thing I went through.
Yes. If you failed to map your shipping zones properly, your card is declined. If your tax nexus ping fails, the ledger won't balance. If your payment gateway isn't fully verified by the underwriters, the funds won't capture. You are forcing the engine to execute the complete life cycle of a transaction.
So what does this all mean for the apps room, which you aren't supposed to even touch until day 7?
It means extreme restraint. You're not allowed to even browse the App Store until you have successfully completed that diagnostic stress test.
Because you need proof.
Because once you put real data through the system, you aren't guessing what features you need based on anxiety. You have empirical proof of what the native engine can and cannot do for your specific operational flow. You let the data dictate the software, not the other way around.
So to wrap up this deep dive, the ultimate takeaway is that complex e-commerce architecture is much smaller than it appears when you apply the right framework.
It really is.
Master the 4 rooms. Recognize the difference between the visual storefront and the mechanical settings. Leverage the multi-tenant scale of the basic plan, understand the math of your payment gateways, and ruthlessly stress test your native plumbing before you hire any digital contractors.
The underlying mechanics will always matter more than the aesthetic paint job.
To you, listening right now, the next time you feel that wave of overwhelm when you're auditing a complex piece of software, remember this spatial model. Don't drown in the granular menus. Map the architecture. Start with the core mechanics, not the shiny features.
This raises an important question, though, if we consider the long-term trajectory of digital commerce. We analyzed how a standardized, identical checkout flow actively engineers consumer trust across the entire internet.
Right.
If that behavioral conditioning continues, are we moving toward a future where the concept of a brand experience, the art, the storytelling, the emotional connection, is entirely confined to the marketing and the visual storefront?
While the checkout just becomes invisible.
Exactly. The actual physical act of purchasing becomes a completely universal, standardized utility, just like turning on a tap for water or flipping a light switch.